What's up everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a mid-drop fade. I actually did this on my coworker Jojo, Little Joe, because we got two Jojos in there. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is balding him out all the way around. You got to make sure that you start up in the front higher than the back. So you're going to do the kind of curve it towards the back. You have to make sure it's a little lower since it's a mid-drop. Once you've gone around the whole way, you want to just clean up everything. You want to make sure you go over the bald a couple of times just to make sure that you get everything. After I brush everything off and make sure everything is smooth, I'm going to be using the FX3 shavers. It's a foil shaver. It's going to be getting you like super skin, real close to the skin. I don't know if you want to do it as a beginner. If you're going to be trying this out, I recommend you hold up on this step. I am going to be using the Andis Masters, so the system from a wall is a little bit different. I'm going to be using the number 2 guard open, which is equal to like a number 3. I'm going almost all the way to the top and using a flick out motion just so you don't dig in too much. In order to keep this fade nice and fresh, you have to keep it dark. It has to stay dark since he has a lot of hair on top. Alright, so you have to make sure that you use the same steps on both sides. You're going up but not too high, so you could be able to blend it into the top hair. Alright, so for me, this is how high I go. You can see that little line right there I pointed out with my finger. From there, I'm going to fade from the bottom to that line. And then the rest that's on top, I'm going to be using either finishing shears or clipper over comb. Alright, now that you know how high you want to go on this fade, we're going to start our first guideline with the lever open. You want to make sure you curve it / dip it towards the back of the head, just so you can keep the same shape we started off with the bald line. Once you've gone all the way around and created that guideline, you want to go to the front of them and make sure that both guidelines are at the same height. Alright, so here I closed the lever, started from the bottom, and started pushing it up. It is closed, as you can see. You're pushing up that guideline little by little. Once you finish the first step and went all around, you want to open your lever about midway and go about midway of that guideline. You want to try and keep the consistency of staying in the middle of that guideline all the way around. I tend to keep a brush on me just so I could brush off the hair that is already cut and is in the way. Alright, so now that we have the lever all the way open, I'm going to go all the way around to that hard line that you see there. And I will be going back to that first guideline to touch anything up. And how I'm going to do that is by closing it, opening it, just messing around with the lever until you feel like you've gotten those lines out. Here I'm just still working on the first guideline, giving in some detail work, making sure this fade is nice and crisp. here I'm using the number 1 guard open, bringing down some bulk just so I can make my second guideline a little bit easier. You want to keep the consistency, keeping the same height all the way around. You don't want to go too high. I repeat, you do not want to go too high. You're going to be losing dark if you go too high, and you do not want to do that. The transition needs to be nice and smooth. Since we're going pretty bald on the sides and the top, he does not want cut. Now that we're done using the number 1 guard, I'm going to be using the half guard. With the lever open, it will be equaling to a 1.5, and previously we went up to a number 2. You want to open the lever and go about midway of that guideline you see there. We're going to be doing the same thing we've been doing this whole haircut. You're going to mess with the lever, opening it, closing it, putting it midway, just to try and get rid of that guideline. Sometimes I'll go up, sometimes I'll go down. It just all depends. But the main goal is to get that guideline you see there out of there. I personally go a little higher towards the back of the head since it tends to be a little darker. So you want to do the same thing on the other side of the head, making sure you're consistent. Right now I'm using the 1 guard open again, just to touch up some dark spots, and repeating the same steps as the other side. Going back to the half guard and repeating the same step as the other side, opening it midway and close. As you can see that guideline right in the middle of his head, you want to make sure that is gone. You don't want to leave any dark spots. It will throw you off. In the beginning it's a bit tough. I struggled with a lot of these steps. The main thing is to stretch your blend. Consistency is a big part on how your fades come out. You want to keep the same height. You don't want to go higher on one side than the other, because then your haircut's going to look kind of lopsided. I had to catch him lacking. So we're back to where we started. We're using the number 2 guard. We're going to be using the flick out motion almost all the way to the top. So one of the final steps is going to be you using your shear over comb to transition it to the top of the hair and lighten some of those dark spots. You want to wet the hair a little bit just so it can set into its natural layout. When you're using clipper over comb, you want to make sure you go in and then kind of poke the comb out towards the top. That way you don't dig in so much. There, it was just kind of funny. I had to pause it. The water was getting in his eye. I wanted to see how far I could leave him like that, but I felt bad. Make sure to be poking that comb out towards you. You don't want to go in too deep. You don't want to cut too much. You could mess him up, leave some light spots. You do not want to do that. The final steps of this haircut is the lining, the C-cups, which I'm doing right now. The best way to do a C-cup is using your corners. So here I'm just going back. I seen a little line. Not every haircut will come out perfect, but you do want to make sure that you're always a work in progress. You always want to learn from each haircut. So here to line him up, I usually start in the middle. I want to keep his lining natural. I don't want to push him up. So always start in the middle of the hairline. And here he was just being weird, trying to look at me, being a little suspicious, you know. He's a little weird. The only way to get him to stop looking at me like that was telling him that I was gonna push him up. So after that, he just kind of just stopped. Thank you to everybody who came this far. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share.